Hello, BookTube. I was tagged yet again in another tag. That's amazing. That's 4 in 1 week. And this was by Robert G., Reader of Books, who did a very simple tag. It's called the Superstitious Reader Tag. And it has just one question. What are your bookish superstitions? Do you have any? I think it's safe to say we all do. And if so, what are they? And maybe what is their origin story? And I saw this originally. Robert G., Reader of Books, does a great job of describing it. And also adds a rather sensitive note that he's not talking here about OCD. Legitimate OCD. Not the incredibly overprescribed phantom illness, but the real thing. People whose lives are tormented by OCD. The genuine article, not a false diagnosis. He's not talking about that. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing to mention. He's talking rather instead about silly compulsions, one way or another, silly things that adhere to your reading of books, like in his case, the number 13. And my first reaction when I saw this was that surely I don't have any of those. Surely I don't, since unlike a lot of readers, maybe the bulk of readers on BookTube, book reading for me has almost from the beginning been a professional thing as well as a personal thing. And you can't afford to have superstitions when you're dealing with something professionally. When you are a freelance book reviewer at the Atumwa Crier or whatever, and the editor says, well, I've got $70 for you if you'll review this book. I want this book reviewed. I'm not asking you what you want to review. I'm saying I've got this and I like your prose. I like you. So I will let you take this book and I will run your review of it if you're willing. Well, in a circumstance like that, of course, if you are a freelancer worth your salt, your answer will be, yes, I am willing. I maintain that freelancers keep that response literally for the rest of their lives, even after they've earned millions with movie deals or won the Nobel Prize in Literature. I don't think there's ever been a tried and true freelancer who started out that way, where that $70 actually means something, where I will make my rent with that and I won't without it. Something like that. Or this bill I will only pay if the editor of the Detroit Free Press gives me $50. When you're in that position, at the beginning, before you have secured a berth, the only way out of that position is either to become a successful novelist or to secure a regular berth where the editors come and go, but you stay. And you have regular work that you can rely on. Before you reach either of those two things, if you are inculcated in that mind frame, I'd like to think it will erase superstitions. Because that mind frame, the number one precept of that mind frame is that you don't ever say no. An editor will be completely genial about it. I've got this book on the history of women's rights. And I notice there's all sorts of turmoil on the campuses these days, and I'd like to write a review of it. Here you go. If you say to that editor, you could talk about superstition. You'd be crazy to do it. But you could say, well, I've just got this superstitious hang-up about writing about authors who have 14 letters in their name. Or if you say to that editor anything else, if you say, well, I would review this for you. I certainly think it's a worthy cause. I just don't think I'm the right person. If you say no for any reason, the editor in question will be completely congenial. I'll say, oh, no, I understand completely. And in their minds, they will draw a line through your name in a mental Rolodex of freelancers, and you'll never hear from them again. It won't be that you hear from them next week saying, well, I know you had your riffs about that last book, but what about this one? No, you'll be gone. So you have to say yes to everything. Unless you get a berth, unless you get into a position where you can talk with your editor about what you're going to do. And that is wonderful, but that happens to 1 in 10,000 people that do this. So I would like to think, I originally thought, well, surely since that is the case, I don't have any freelance. I don't have any superstitions when it comes to book reading. But then I was thinking, I suppose I kind of do. I don't know that the thing that I'm thinking of, I don't know that I would call it a superstition. But it isn't rational. So maybe I would. And I've touched on it on this channel before. I have a reflexive tendency to think of books as people, or at least as living entities, who, when they're on my shelves, can feel neglected or can bully each other. And when they're brand new, when they're forthcoming, they're only negative. They're a bad house guest. They want my time. They want my attention. They want my money. They want all of those things, not just from me, but from a whole bunch of other people. They are bad entities, bad actors. And they are coming to you on the new release table of a bookstore, on the new release shelf of a library, wherever, or in galley form, in the mail, to me. They are coming to us all, and they are saying, I know I want all these things. I want a huge investment of your attention. A huge amount. Most of you, I'm going to be the work of hours to consume. And I want a large amount of money. If it's not the library, if it's a bookstore, I want a large amount of money. I want more money than by a factor of 50 than I actually cost to make. I want a ruinous amount of money. If I'm a new World War II history, I want $45. I want you to hand over $45, $50 with tax, for one book. And they want your attention. Even a dumb Colleen Hoover book wants a certain amount of attention. You can't read without paying attention to it, which takes you out of all the other things that want your attention. Those books, whether they're at the library or new releases or the books that come in the mail to me, they all come to us saying, I want all those things from you. And in exchange, I'll give you something. And in my opinion, the foremost task of a critic is to determine whether or not the book is promising, delivering as much or more than it's asking. I know that sounds very mercantile. It sounds very cash and carry. As far as I'm concerned, that's it. As far as I'm concerned, that is true. As far as I'm concerned, there is no higher muse calling, no slopes of Mount Helicon element to book criticism. What I am doing is I'm screening those bad guests for you. I'm going to let some of them by, and the ones that come by are not changing. They're not making any different demands on you. They're still demanding your time, your attention, and your money. But I'm letting a few of them by when I have vetted them by listening to them tell me about the dream they had last night, or bilk me, or steal money from my pants while I'm out with the dog, or whatnot. I've put myself through all of that in order to determine the tiny, tiny handful of them that are worth it, that are going to give you more than what they're going to take from you. As far as I'm concerned, that's the job of a critic, to be a watchdog. So I'm out in the front yard, and I don't like the look of 9 out of 10 people that come by. But there'll be one person that comes by where, with that sense that dogs have, I know this person is not going to harm you. I'm not going to object to this person. We all know that dogs react that way. I like to think of myself that way, and any critic that way. Of course, some critics are better than others. Some critics are writing on a more exalted level, and other critics have an exalted opinion of themselves, whether they're writing on an exalted level or not. But I believe that's what it should come down to. You are serving your readers. You are trying to screen out bad Airbnb guests, as many as you can, in order to pass along the ones that are worth their time. And I have fellow critics, I have always had fellow critics, who basically just love everybody. I think we can all agree that would be a really poor watchdog. You'd be robbed pretty quick if that were true. That you're not serving your reader then. What you're trying to do then is you're looking at the published fraternity of authors and saying, can I be cool enough to join? When they're your enemy. You shouldn't be wanting to join them at all. Your only job is to serve the reader. So this is getting a little off topic here as I talk about book criticism. But my point is that the only way that I think about these things is as semi-sentient beings, which is definitely superstitious. I will look at a book. I will sometimes say out loud to a book as I'm starting it, all right, what have you got to say for yourself? I will often say that. When I'm by myself here at Hyde Cottage with just the bean to listen to me, I will sometimes look at my new release shelf, for instance, and say, well, you didn't really pan out, did you? With all the promise that you had. You didn't turn out to be all that hot. I'll sometimes say that out loud. And that's not completely rational. So I'm hoping that fits with Bob's tag here. That is a kind of supernatural thing that I have. I view these things not as waves upon the seashore, which are also unthinking, but rather as the horde of White Walkers in Game of Thrones. I view them as walking, sentient things They very much want personal things from you and from me. They want time, attention, and money in huge amounts. A TikTok video does not necessarily want your money, at least not up front in any way that is merely obvious, and they want barely any of your time. They just want your attention. They have completely monetized your attention. Compare that to a book, where most books that you encounter are designed to look enticing. Whole departments of their publisher are employ people solely to make it look and sound enticing. And much as it grieves me to say so, most of the people who look at those books when they finally arrive in libraries or bookstores don't have me. They don't subscribe to my channel. They don't know who I am. So they're at the mercy of those departments, and those departments are pretty skilled. They are skilled at selling the book sight unseen to you when you're browsing. When I think about that, instead of thinking of the professionals in the marketing department and the publicity department that are shaping those things, I think about the end product as being the thing that's doing it. I think about the books as sirens, evilly demanding your attention and your time. So I guess that counts as a superstition. That's as close as I can come. But I can't wait to hear what the rest of you have to say on the subject. What your book of superstitions, I'm sure, will be a little bit more sensible than mine. It's certainly a little bit more common. I don't think there are any other full-time critics on BookTube, much less people who've been full-time critics for as long as I was a full-time critic for a long, long time. And then I stopped for a long, long time to be a bookseller. And now I'm a full-time critic again and have been for a long time. So that is just a reflexive way that I think. I think of books as the enemy. I love them, but I think of them as the enemy. They're all talking big. They're all hoping that they can bamboozle you. And only a few of them actually have the goods. If I thought of them just as objects, this wouldn't be superstitious. So we'll see. We'll see what you have to come up with. I can't wait to hear it. But anyway, I'll link to Bob's video down below. It's a fun, thought-provoking thing, as all of his tags are. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.